Hey guys, welcome back. So this is going to be a video collaboration with BCM Wolverine. So I recommend you stop watching this video and head on over to his channel, because I'm almost positive his video is going to be 100 times more entertaining than this one. So about a week ago he sent me an email saying he wanted to do a video about Panther Car ownership and the pros and cons. But seeing how there's already 10 or maybe even 100 different videos covering the subject, he thought he would put a twist on it. And that twist is the pros and cons from a young person's perspective versus a mature person's perspective. And being that he's a high school senior, he would have a pretty good idea of the young person's. And me being a mature person, I would have a good idea of that. So I thought this would be a pretty good contrast and comparison to talk about these pros and cons. So first off, I'd like to thank all of the respondents to my little survey. I really appreciate you giving your feedback, because without it this video would not have been possible. So I've put I put all your guys' names and the links to your channels down below, so you can check them out and see who responded. So in total there were 24 respondents, and there were 56 different pros and cons in the categories, and 27 of them I'll mention in this video. And the other 29 I'm not going to mention, but I'm going to put down in the comment section because of the time constraints. It would just be too long to talk about. And then I've got a special treat. We've got a special guest, our man in Deutschland, Frank from Germany. If you don't know who that is, that guy is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs when it comes to Crown Vics. Not only has he imported an LAPD retired car in its full garb, he imported a second Crown Vic in a SAP form, because the first one was just making him too famous. So that'll be a nice treat to see, get someone's perspective from someone who doesn't live in the United States. So this here is the list of pros and cons, and you've probably already seen this question. This is the question I sent you. I said, what would you say are the pros and cons of owning a Panther car? And there were so many responses in so many different categories. I had to get this in a form that I would be able to digest all this information. So I've got 3 columns here. The first one is called M, and that's how many different times this particular subject was mentioned. And then of course the P is the pro and the C is a con. And you can see I've got this in 3 different categories. And the first category I'm going to call uncontested pros. And these are things that people mentioned that only said was a pro. There was no cons in this section. And then the next section is called uncontested cons, and these are categories where people had nothing good to say. It was all bad. And then the last and the most important, which is the reason why this video is being made, is the debatable pros and cons. And I have a feeling age has something to do with why these are debatable. So let's get right into the pros. And at the very top of the list, with 24 mentions and all of them being pros, are the parts availability, new and used, and aftermarket performance products. You can't beat that. Okay, so the next category, I'd like to call this 6 seat belts and room for 6 more in the trunk, also known as big and roomy. And we had 20 people mention it, and they were all pros. The next category I'm going to call durability and reliability. Someone even called it a true battle wagon, and I really think that fits. And we had 18 people say that was a pro, and of course nobody said it was a con. The next category, everybody said, or most people said, it was easy to work on, and that comes to self-repair or even trying to find a good repair shop to work on it. And we had 15 people say that that was a pro. The next category is comfort and ride quality, and we had 13 people say that was a pro, and nobody said it was a con. The next category is going to be for the V8 engine, and 12 people said that was a pro, and nobody said it was a con. The next category is going to be exterior styling. A lot of people said it has good looks, and one person even said he really likes the long hood, and I'd have to agree. We got 11 people that mentioned it, and they were all pros, no cons. This is a pretty good category. Low cost of admission. You can get them for pretty cheap. 9 people mentioned it, and they were all pros, no cons. The next category, they said it was a DIY dream car if you like to tinker, and I'd have to agree. That's 7 for the pros and 0 cons. The next category, they talked about towing capacity, and I'd have to agree. You can get a Class 3 hitch, and I think it might even be the same one as the Ford F-150, and you can bolt it up and you can tow a little bit with it. And we had 3 people say that that was a pro. And the last category of the pros is someone mentioned it has a low cost of insurance, and I'd have to agree on that, and I was the second vote for that. 2 people said that was a pro. And just to give you an idea of how cheap the insurance can be, I pulled my policy declaration here, and I've got both my 04 Crown Vic and my 2010 Grand Marquis. And this is a 6-month policy. This is my current policy from Geico. And for 6 months, I'm paying $80 for the Vic and $88 for the Merc. So total for 2 vehicles for 6 months is $168. And of course, that's just the basic minimum coverages. Alright, so now let's get into the cons. And once again, these are uncontested cons. So number 1 on the list, no factory optional manual transmission. How nice would it have been if Ford would have put in a 5-speed manual right from the factory? We had 4 people mention that, and all 4 of them said that was a con. The next category is automatic transmission. Most people said it was a weak point, and they complained about the shift quality. 4 people mentioned that, and all 4 of them said it was the con. The next category is they say the front suspension parts wear out prematurely, and they're talking about the bushings and ball joints and whatnot. 4 people chimed in, and they all said it was a con. The next category is they say the total lack of modern technology and safety features, and they mentioned the infotainment system and all of the driver aids that you see on brand new model cars, like automatic cruise control and automatic braking and all that stuff. The next and 4 people mentioned that, and they all 4 of them said it was a con. The next one is the plastic intake manifold, and 3 people said that that was a con. The next category is used, abused, rode hard, and put away wet. 3 people mentioned that, and they all said it was a con. So I have a feeling they're talking about the police interceptors that were treated a little rough. Now this is a good one. Limited slip differential is not standard on all models. How nice would that have been if they all had limited slip? And 2 people mentioned that, and they both said it was a con. And this is the last con, and this is he just says the goddamn cup holders. And 2 people brought that up, and they both said it was a con. Okay. So now let's get into the debatable pros and cons. So these are going to be pros and cons where the people that rang into this survey had differing answers. And number 1 on the list is no surprise, stock engine performance. 6 people mentioned it, and 6 people said it was a pro, and 10 people said it was a con. And I'm one of the person who said that was a pro. And the reason why I say that is because sure, Ford could have done some tweaking to get maybe 300 or even maybe 350 horse out of the motor, but I have a feeling if they had done that, they would have ruined the durability and the reliability of the engine, and they wouldn't be lasting as long. Okay, so the next category, I think most people can agree on this, is the fuel economy, the miles per gallon. 13 people mentioned it, 3 people said it was a pro, and 10 people said it was a con. And I'm one of the cons. The fuel economy on these cars is not that great. Okay, so this next category I'm going to call public perception. And that's people from the public, when they see you driving in your car, they either think you're a grandpa or a grandma, or you're a police impersonator. And 11 people mentioned that. 2 people said that that was a pro, and 9 people said that was a con. And this one is pretty strange. I was a little confused about this one. And this is body-on-frame design. 8 people mentioned it, and 7 people said it was a pro, but only 1 person said it was a con. And the way he explained it, it made sense to me. Interior styling. 7 people mentioned it, and 4 people said it was a pro, and 3 people said it was a con. And rear-wheel drive. 6 people mentioned it. 3 people said it was a pro, and 3 people said it was a con. And the people who said that it was a con are the people who have to drive it in the snow, and it can be a little challenging. Okay, so this last category of the debatable pros and cons is I'm going to call the crash worthiness. There were 6 people who mentioned it, and 4 people said it's a pro, and 2 people said it's a con. And the 4 people who said it's a pro basically says it has to do with how much this thing weighs. So I looked up the GVWR, the gross vehicle weight rating, on my Vic. And so I took a picture of my my door label sticker, and right on here you can see the gross vehicle weight is 5,800 pounds, and the maximum load with passengers and luggage is 1,100 pounds. So that means the car with no passengers or no luggage weighs about 4,700 pounds. And when you load it up with people and luggage, you'll get it right up to that 56 or 5,800 pound. So I got curious, and so I Googled what was the GV on a F-150. So I got on Google and I just typed in F-150 GVWR, and check this out. The 2020 F-150, the GV ranges from 6,100 to 7,000. So we're just talking about a 300-pound difference from the smallest F-150. And then I found this over here. And it's talking about the curb weight, and that's what it is with no passengers or no luggage. And the 2020 F-150, it ranges from 4,000 to 5,600, and my Vic is 4,700. So that means my Vic weighs 700 pounds more than the smallest base model F-150. I think that's significant. Okay, so now I want to talk about our man in Deutschland, Frank from Germany. It was real nice of him to reply to my request for information, and he brought up some pretty good tips. I'm going to talk about all on his own. So first off, he talks about the cons. He said his con is the fuel economy, and that's because in Germany gasoline is $6 a gallon. His second con, he said it's too damn buku. It just won't fit in German garages, parking lots, and parking garages. And if you've ever seen a video on his channel, he normally takes up 4 or 5 different parking spaces with his Vic. The next con is maintenance and repair shops are unfamiliar with U.S. car technology. So it's very difficult to find a mechanic who can work on a Vic over there. So this next con, I can't believe nobody mentioned this before, but he says it has the worst headlights he's seen in 30 years of driving, and he's talking about the brightness. And I would have to agree with him on that. And his last con is he says it has expensive registration road tax. And over there they pay by the engine size. And most cars are between 1 and 2 liters of displacement. So his 4.6 over there, he's paying, you know, double, triple, or maybe even 4 times the road tax just to drive that around. Okay, so now he talks about his pros. His number 1 pro is it's a unicorn. You know, it's very rare in Germany, and it's an attention getter car. And his next pro is it has low technology, and because of that it's easy for him to self-repair. The third pro is he's got cheap parts availability from the internet. And the fourth pro, he says it has the biggest trunk he's ever seen. And so because of all these pros and cons, it's not a daily driver for him, it's only a Sunday car for him. And so that got me thinking about my registration, how much registration fees are. And so I pulled my my registration here for Frank. If you're watching, this is my registration for last year, and I paid $126 for the year to register that thing and drive it on public roads. And it got me thinking how they come up with that $126. What is it based on? Is it based on the engine size and like in Germany, or something else? So I went to my my state DMV and I found this 6-page document, and I really can't make heads or tails of it, but I did find 2 things on here, and it looks like there's 2 main factors. How they calculate the road tax, and it has to do with the value of the vehicle. And there's 5 different categories on here. One from $0 to $5,000, and then the top tier is $60,000 and higher. So basically, the more expensive vehicle you drive, the more you're going to pay in road tax. And the other one on here I found is the gross vehicle weight. The more weight the vehicle weighs, the more road tax you're going to pay. And I guess that has to do with how much wear and tear it's going to put on the roads. Okay, that's pretty much it for this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.